Click, call, or visit a Spectrum store today.
We said we'd never break the 3-second rule. Never do that. And never become a minivan mom.
Hey, Chris.
As parents, we say never a lot, but never happens. So when you say you'd never leave your child in a hot car, know it can happen. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
Good morning, I'm Bree Driscoll, and here's your Spectrum News in 90. President Donald Trump announces a delay on more tariffs against Mexico and Canada until April 2nd. In the wake of the pause, the president of Mexico says she won't announce new reciprocal measures Sunday as planned. Canada is holding off on its second round of new tariffs on U.S. goods, but keeping the first in place. Another SpaceX test flight ended with an explosion yesterday. Contact with the spacecraft was lost minutes after its takeoff from Texas. The company later confirmed the spacecraft experienced a rapid unscheduled disassembly. 4 mock satellites were set to be released from the rocket, but could not be deployed in time. For the first time since being hospitalized, Pope Francis releases an audio message to the public. He thanked the faithful around the world, quote, "from the bottom of my heart." The Pope remains in stable condition. And make sure you rest up because you'll be losing an hour of sleep this weekend. It's daylight saving time. Sunday, most of the country will turn clocks ahead 1 hour at 2 a.m. The annual seasonal change event brings longer days and shorter nights. Hawaii and Arizona are the only states that don't observe the change. We can expect to fall back on November 2nd. That's your Spectrum News in 90.
I'm meteorologist Ian Cassette with your weather on the ones. Our forecast focus here for this Friday. A few areas to watch heading into the weekend. A snowstorm will continue moving eastward, bringing snow across the Rockies and Plains. Elsewhere, heavy rain in the Plains will move across the Gulf Coast this weekend with some heavy rain totals possible. And into next week, how about some spring warmth? We'll talk more about this coming up with your weather on the ones.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bree Driscoll, and thanks so much for joining us here on Spectrum News. Today is Friday, March 7th. Our top story, President Donald Trump announcing a delay on more tariffs against Mexico and Canada until April 2nd. On Wednesday, the president delayed auto tariffs by 1 month. In the wake of the pause, the president of Mexico says she won't announce new reciprocal measures Sunday as planned. Canada is holding off on its second round of new tariffs on U.S. goods, but keeping the first in place. American companies might feel more pain if they have to shell out for new tariffs starting next month.
We are hopes that it'll be a motivator to get these companies to get their butts in gear and take care of American workers.
Trump has promised tariffs will benefit the U.S. in the end. Spectrum's Angie Gonzalez has the latest from Washington.
It's been a wild week on Wall Street. All 3 major indexes closed lower Thursday as investors continue to grapple with the Trump administration's indecision over tariffs on Canadian and Mexican imports.
I'm not even looking at the market because long term, the United States will be very strong with what's happening here.
For now, President Trump has settled on a temporary pause on tariffs for imports covered by the trade deal he negotiated in 2020. That still means about half of imports from Mexico and 62% from Canada will still be taxed. The pause on other items will only be in place until April 2nd. Uncertainty over all the changes has made some business owners nervous.
Almost every industry in Kentucky has come to me and said it will hurt our industry and push up prices of homes, cars, and so I'm going to continue to argue against tariffs.
For some Canadian companies, the damage has been done, and they're looking for alternatives.
Is this causing us to look
for other places to buy our products.
Canadian businesses have also been pulling American products off their shelves. Economists say U.S. consumers will likely feel more pain when American companies begin paying the added tax on imports they sell, as that cost is often passed along to consumers. Despite the near daily changes to U.S. trade policy, some believe that in the long run, tariffs might help bring back American manufacturing after decades of those jobs being shipped overseas. In Washington, Angie Gonzalez, Spectrum News.
The Trump administration confirms it's having direct talks with Hamas to end the war between the militant group and Israel. It's a remarkable reversal of a decades-long U.S. policy to not negotiate with groups it designates as terrorists. Our national political reporter Taylor Popolars is at the White House with the latest.
Steve Witkoff is a billionaire real estate developer from New York who's President Donald Trump's special envoy to the Middle East. In a briefing with reporters outside the White House Thursday, he confirmed the Trump administration is negotiating directly with the terror group Hamas.
I have not met with Hamas, but my understanding is that any discussions with Hamas have been recent. Not 3 weeks has been reported, but a couple of days, and that's well within the ambit of the special envoy. In fact, that's his job. His job is to get these people home.
The president posted a statement on social media Wednesday telling Hamas that this is your last warning to release the Israeli and American hostages it still has captive. Trump went on to write that if Hamas refuses, quote, "You are dead. There will be hell to pay later." Witkoff told us there could be joint action taken by the U.S. and Israel if Hamas does not release the hostages soon.
You heard the president say yesterday he's giving the Israelis anything they need. So it's the Israelis, but with very, very strong physical and emotional support.
The president met with 9 former hostages at the White House on Wednesday, something Witkoff said moved him deeply. He defended the administration negotiating directly with a terror organization.
I don't know whether it was a direct engagement or not. It could have been through a go-between. I just know that the messaging was, we want to see these hostages come home. We're not going to sit here, do nothing, and tolerate these kind of inhumane conditions.
Witkoff said he is returning to the Middle East next week for more meetings about the Israeli-Hamas war and the war between Russia and Ukraine. He estimates Hamas still has between 22 and 24 hostages who are alive in captivity. Reporting at the White House, Taylor Popolars, Spectrum News.
We're hearing the Pope's voice for the first time since he was hospitalized 3 weeks ago. Francis recording an audio message that was shared with the faithful in St. Peter's Square last night. The 88-year-old leader of the Catholic Church thanked everyone for their prayers. His voice was weak and barely discernible at some parts through his labored breathing. This morning, the Vatican said the Pope had a good night's rest. The Holy See press office says doctors don't expect to give a new medical update until tomorrow. Francis is in stable condition as he battles double pneumonia. Well, President Trump signs an executive order to establish a government Bitcoin reserve. The order calls for a full accounting of the government's Bitcoin holdings. According to Trump's crypto czar, the government will retain an estimated 200,000 Bitcoin that it's already seized in criminal and civil proceedings. Establishing the reserve is one of several crypto-related promises Trump made on the campaign trail last year. Spring break season is officially underway. The Transportation Security Administration says the peak spring break travel period started yesterday and runs until March 24th. According to AAA, the top 5 domestic spring break destinations include Orlando, Fort Lauderdale, Atlanta, Miami, and New York. Meteorologist Ian Cassette joins us now with a look at what spring breakers can expect. Ian.
Well, it's going to be a mixed bag in Florida, depending on where you go. If you had plans in South Florida, Miami, it's going to look great. Temperatures in the 70s and 80s. It's been relatively dry last few months there in South Florida. Orlando, also pretty good. Temperatures in the 70s and 80s. A slight chance of rain this weekend, but likely dry. It's northern Florida. That's where the issues will be at. Along the Gulf Coast beaches, Panama City, expect to be stormy Saturday and Sunday. Jacksonville as well. That rain will extend up into South Carolina, North Carolina, as well as Georgia, with those temperatures a little bit cooler in the 60s and 70s. And as we go northward to New York City, well, not exactly the warmest, 40s and 50s, will be generally dry, but I would imagine there's probably a better place to go to the beach than New York.
Yeah, I'm not going to be hitting the beach here over spring break. So your advice is head way south if you want good beach weather.
Good rule of thumb.
All right, thanks so much, Ian. Another explosion for SpaceX. A test flight for Elon Musk's company ends with debris falling from the sky and some flights being grounded for a short time. We have the video you need to see. That's coming up right here on Spectrum News.
Weather can be beautiful, inconvenient, and at times powerful. And it affects everything we do. At Spectrum News Plus, our weather experts update you with the information and the context you need so you can better plan your day. And we do it every 10 minutes. We're the calm in the storm. Weather on the Ones on Spectrum News Plus, exclusively on Spectrum. And get your weather anytime on the Spectrum News app.
I really am in the middle of nowhere. Every day is different. Chores, come on, homeschooling, and then I fit in the rug business. I just got a new batch of rugs that I'd love to show you. I have a website, and a lot of what I do is sharing my home life. Mommy's leaving. Reliable, high-speed internet is the foundation of our business. Spectrum was great. They went out of their way to make sure that I was okay and I was taken care of. Shoo! And that's the awesomeness of having Spectrum.
You're not gonna get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Even the mighty might not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. But you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test to know where you stand and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.
I'm meteorologist Ian Cassett with your weather on the Ones. We continue to receive some incredible video from this week's winter storm out in the plains. This was from the Iowa State Patrol showing you what they saw and whiteout conditions. It looks apocalyptic with this big snowstorm and unfortunately causing car accidents. Can't see, and that's why it's so dangerous to drive in these storms. And we do have another winter storm pushing through Iowa here today. Not at the same magnitude or strength as the previous system, but still some impactful weather with winter weather advisories in Iowa and parts of the plains thanks to this low pressure system moving eastward. High pressure currently on the east coast, though. We do have our departing system leading to some winds and rain in the northeast, and a next system that's going to be in the desert southwest pushing across, leading to some snow and potential for some storms across the southeast. Winter weather alerts. We do have winter storm warnings in effect all the way to Nebraska. Winter weather advisories into the Iowa and to the parts of the Midwest, with more advisories and warnings down in the desert southwest. Here's our system, pretty evident, kind of taking a similar path as the last one, just a lot weaker. So snow on the north side of it here. That's going to spread east into the afternoon around the Great Lakes, Chicago, into the Ohio Valley. Here's our next system, mountain snow, some higher elevation snow into the plateaus there in New Mexico. This is going to move east towards the Gulf Coast, leading to some storms here heading into Saturday. And we'll talk more about that here coming up with your weather on the Ones. But look at all the snow, some heavy snow there in northern New Mexico, lighter snow totals across the plains and into the Ohio Valley. So not really a whole lot of snow coming out of this, maybe an inch or two at most. We also do have those winds, high wind warnings in Massachusetts, up to 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, and some breezy conditions that's going to last into the weekend. Maybe not a strong Saturday, but still pretty gusty here. So expect the winds in the northeast with that departing system out into Canada and into the Atlantic. So gusty winds here this weekend. Our temperatures mild in the southeast, not so bad in the north. We'll talk about a widespread warm up into next week coming up with your weather on the Ones.
look at what you need to know. President Donald Trump announces a delay on more tariffs against Mexico and Canada until April 2nd. On Wednesday, the president delayed auto tariffs by 1 month. Another SpaceX test flight ends with an explosion yesterday, the company confirming the spacecraft experienced a rapid unscheduled disassembly. And for the first time since being hospitalized, Pope Francis releasing an audio message to the public. He thanked the faithful around the world from, quote, the bottom of my heart. The Pope remains in stable condition. And that's a look at what you need to know this morning. Another failed mission for SpaceX. The latest test flight of the company's Starship mega rocket ending with an explosion. It's the second time in less than 2 months a SpaceX Starship broke apart. Last night's failed launch sending airports into a frenzy. Our Jenna Enoch has the latest.
SpaceX's latest Starship lifted off from the company's Starbase facility in South Texas on Thursday, a stress test after a previous failure of the spacecraft back in January. But minutes into the flight, engines started to go out and the company owned by Elon Musk stopped receiving data, and the connection was lost. This marks the second consecutive failure for the vehicle this year. The Starship rocket didn't make it quite as high or as far as last time, but both rockets rained debris down over Turks and Caicos. Video shows debris from this explosion happening over the Caribbean. You see orange and white streaks in the sky from where debris was falling, visible from parts of Florida, too. And this video shows the debris falling as people watch on from Marathon, Florida, a city in the Florida Keys. And the failed mission forcing the FAA to halt flights into Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach, and Orlando airports for falling space debris. Flights leaving those airports were also delayed by about 30 or 45 minutes. SpaceX says the spacecraft experienced a rapid, unscheduled disassembly during the ascent engine firing and said it alerted safety officials. The company adding it made several improvements to the spacecraft following the January accident. And the FAA recently cleared Starship once more for launch. Jenna Enoch, Spectrum News.
Nearly 500,000 Haitians who were accepted into the U.S. for humanitarian reasons are now on track to be deported back to Haiti, where a state of emergency has been in effect for nearly a year. That's because last month, the Department of Homeland Security confirmed the temporary protected status for Haitian immigrants would expire 6 months early on August 3rd. Spectrum's Ayana Harry has more.
They are now trying to create pathways to deport people who were actually in this country legally.
Communities and families on edge, New York lawmakers sounding off.
This decision ignores the dire reality in Haiti.
More than 500,000 Haitians living in the U.S. may soon be at risk of deportation after the Trump administration announced temporary protected status for Haitian migrants will come to an end in August.
People are not even going to restaurants to fear that, they could get deported.
Jean-Pierre moved to New York after Haiti's devastating 2010 earthquake. Today, several of his relatives live, work, and pay taxes in the U.S. thanks to their temporary protected status. They all believe returning to Haiti is not an option.
It's violence in Haiti.
In 2021, Haiti's president was assassinated. Today, the capital city is largely controlled by gangs. The UN humanitarian coordinator for Haiti calling conditions there an unprecedented crisis.
I would say it is really heartbreaking to see, to witness, to listen to victims of violence.
Haitian communities across the country are bracing for potential deportations, like in Springfield, Ohio, where President Donald Trump falsely claimed that Haitians in the city were eating their neighbors' pets. In October, Trump was asked about his plans for TPS and Haiti as president. Temporary protected status was designed to allow people to live lawfully in the U.S. while their home country experiences armed conflict or natural disaster. In announcing the end of TPS for Haiti, the Department of Homeland Security said the system had been abused and exploited for decades.
You have to remove the people and you have to bring them back to their own country.
Ayana Harry, Spectrum News.
Just ahead on Spectrum News, we take a closer look at the women behind the 688, a military unit that made history during World War II.
Spectrum News Plus. News from a new perspective, dedicated to refreshing storytelling and empowering communities across the nation. With balanced reporting, providing real context and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day.
Here's a look at your forecast across the country.
Local stories, connecting communities. We are Spectrum News Plus. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
Starting a business is hard. You have to stay connected at all times.
As we've been growing the studio, Spectrum's been there every step of the way. I'm always able to make the phone call that I need. I'm able to shoot that text message or that email. Every vital piece of equipment that we have here uses Spectrum.
Fast, reliable internet, starting at $40 a month, backed by the Spectrum commitment to keep your business connected.
Food isn't just fuel to live, it's fuel to grow. My family relied on public assistance to help provide meals for us. These meals fueled my involvement in theater and the arts as a child, which fostered my love for acting. The Feeding America network of food banks helps millions of people put food on the table. When people are fed, futures are nourished. Join the movement to end hunger, and together we can open endless possibilities for people to thrive. Visit feedingamerica.org/actnow.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
I'm meteorologist Ian Cassette with your weather on the ones. Whenever we have an active week like we've had this week, I always like to check out what's going on. The atmospheric moisture, it's sort of like looking under the hood of the atmosphere. And you see the system bringing snow across the plains, but also a little swirl about to move into Arizona. This is what's going to lead to some snow in Arizona, New Mexico, but also potential for some severe weather this weekend in the southeast. Picking things up Saturday morning, snow across northern Arizona, even into Texas, but we'll have storms across northern Texas. Dallas might wake up to some early thunder yet again. Rain across Oklahoma, snow in northern Texas. Storms expected as we go into Saturday afternoon and evening for the Gulf Coast, with rain that will be heavy at times. We are going to have heavy downpours with this, repeated heavy downpours, which could lead to some flooding. And southern Georgia, that's where I'm expecting decent amount of rain, also into northern parts of Florida here, where we will have potential for 1 inch to 2 inches of rain, if not more. The severe risk for Saturday is going to run from Dallas all through Louisiana and into Hattiesburg to Panama City there, as we will have a risk of larger hail. The most rainfall is probably going to occur somewhere between southern Alabama all the way to northern Florida and southern Georgia, where we may have 1 inch to 2 inches of rain. Most areas under that, but if you do see, again, repeated rounds of rain, that's where you can get those higher totals. Drought monitor revealing we need some rain in Florida, Orlando, West Palm Beach, Miami, all in a drought, Georgia in a drought. So any rain at all we can get. I'm not expecting much rain in southern Florida, but we could use it, and a more active pattern in March could help out. But for right now, quiet in southern Florida. The next 3 days, temperature-wise, very warm in the 80s in central Florida. We'll have 50s and 60s in Kansas City. Temperatures mild, in fact, across most of the country aside from the northeast. We are really going to see a pattern build here as we get into the weekend and into next week. Warmth will slowly rise from south to north, and that is going to bring temperatures 15 to 20 degrees above average next week, especially the eastern half of the country, the mid-Atlantic, where most likely we will see those warmer temperatures, warmer than average temperatures, while the cooler air will be off in the west. If you're wondering about our rain prospects, that's most likely in the west. A more active pattern here could lead to more rain in California, but also opportunities for rain in the southeast, which again, we do need the rain and it could be on the way. But that spring warmth is certainly going to make a return.
Women's History Month, and this morning we're looking at the 6888. That's the nickname for the 6,888th Central Postal Directory Battalion. The group of nearly 900 women made history as the first and only predominantly black and all-female military unit deployed during World War II. Their motto, no male, low morale. Rose Todd spoke to the daughter of one of the members about her legacy.
Know that she was a part of American history because she was proud to be American.
Donna M. Wilson and Debbie L. Madison are the daughters of Alma G. Minter, one of the members of 6888th Central Postal Directory Battalion, also known as 6888, the only all-female, mostly black military unit that served in Europe during World War II. 6888 played a vital role, tasked with sorting and routing mail for millions of American soldiers and their loved ones.
Mom probably didn't realize at the time that she was a part of history.
6888 consisted of 855 women who worked in 3 shifts, 7 days a week, sorting on average 65,000 pieces of mail per shift. Women came from all over the country. Nearly 60 came from Ohio, including Tech Sergeant Minter.
It means a lot to all of us in the family, including my mother's children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, because a lot of history is lost.
Their story is the inspiration behind Tyler Perry's award-winning and Oscar-nominated 2024 movie, The 6888. The film focuses on how the women boosted morale for the troops by keeping mail flowing, but also faced sexism and racism.
Mom didn't tell us many stories about the 6888.
They describe her as a private person who didn't talk much about the war.
And I feel that it's because she didn't want us to have hatred in our heart. She was not a hateful person. She was a forgiving person.
Over the decades, they were overlooked for awards and honors. That changed in 2022 when Congress awarded members of the 6888 with the Congressional Gold Medal, the nation's highest civilian award. In February, Congresswoman Shontel Brown also presented the Minter family with this honor. She also spoke about Miss Minter on the House floor.
To Miss Minter and all the women of the 6888, we say a long, long overdue thank you. Your service will not be forgotten, and your legacy will continue to shine brightly for generations to come.
Minter's daughters both tell me they were honored, grateful, and proud to receive the medals for their mother. They see them as another piece of history to add to their nearly 90-year-old collection that also includes one letter addressed to Mrs. Minter from the Department of the Army that hasn't been opened. Another way to make sure their family history lives on.
Be proud.
Yes, that their grandmother made a difference.
For Spectrum News, I'm Rose Todd.
Shining a spotlight on Unit 6888's service. What a truly inspiring story. I'm Bree Driscoll. Thanks so much for watching. Your Spectrum News in 90 is coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.
I tell my son, I love you every single day. I love you. Now, my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
It's game time at the arena, and 20,000 fans are looking for a win. With an ultra-high-speed network and seamless Wi-Fi, fans can get in the door fast and share the game's best moments in real time. And with Spectrum Business committed to keeping them connected 100% of the time, they won't miss a second of the action. A secure, reliable connection from Spectrum Business means the fan experience is a guaranteed win.
Sometimes in life, in order to move forward, it helps to look back.
To learn from the pioneers and trailblazers.
To gain inspiration from those who came before us.
to show us what it means to act with empathy and to show that love has no labels.
Join WWE and Love Has No Labels throughout the year in celebrating people from all communities and heritages.
Because when love has no labels, that's a love we can all fight for.
Women are bad with money. That's what the world's been saying for centuries. But now we've got something to say. Save it.
It's time to save ourselves by saving our money.
Until we're no longer 80% more likely than men to live in poverty in retirement.
Save it. The falsehoods, the feelings of fault.
Then, the funds. Learn how to save for your retirement at wesaysaveit.org.